How are you? Welcome. It is SVPod. Just me. Big man is not along for the ride on this one. And there will be episodes like this from time to time, which we're going to frame as one big thing. The idea being, if you've watched the Sports Center that we've done for the last decade, there's a segment which dates back to the radio days called One Big Thing, which, very simply, one big thing, one topic, one specific area of conversation, if you will. And so it'll be long-form interviews, me and a guest. And with that guest, many of whom there'd be lots and lots of things we might like to talk about. We'll keep it to one thing. And our very first guest is Jon Stewart. And you think, wow, Van Pelt's going to talk election? No, no, I'm not. That's a lane that he can traffic in and does quite capably. Nope, it's about dogs. It's about Otis. It's about Dipper. It's about things that you might have been through as well. Saying goodbye, the difficulty of that. But there's some beautiful things on the other side, which we both have experienced. So it's one big thing with Jon Stewart. Joined now by one of the most decorated hosts and writers in our business, from The Daily Show on television and a relatively new podcast, The Weekly Show podcast. It is Jon Stewart. Jon, thank you so much. I appreciate you making time in what is a very busy schedule, sir. Thanks.
It is my pleasure to come into your boudoir or whatever it is.
It's actually, someday it'll be sort of boudoir-ish, but at the moment, we're in the lovely Podville studios here, not far from my home. But I'm grateful.
I like it very much. Very tasteful.
It is. It's really well appointed, and I'm comfortable.
Is that a Lazy Susan, Scott, if I may ask, in front of you?
Let me see if it spins. It does. It is. That is a Lazy Susan.
Boy, you don't see enough of those.
I would agree. Functional and elegant. Here in Podville. I'm grateful mostly because this wasn't exactly the most uplifting sell, because what I wanted to talk about today was something that I'm familiar with and my family, you and your family are familiar with. It just hardly makes this unique.
Yes.
I'd say the majority of the people listening know. It's what it is when you lose a beloved member of your family, your dog.
Yes.
In our case, right. It was Otis the dog. It was a couple of years ago.
Otis.
He was so.
That's a good name.
And he was a good boy. And your dog was Dipper, a little brindle pit. And what makes our situations unusual, different than most people listening, is that we have an outlet, a place to go share our love, our grief. And then I know this from my point of view, an amazing thing happens. This 25 years I'm doing this at ESPN, and I'm sure you are. You get to do amazing things, and you cross paths with incredible people, and you do all this stuff, and some of it feels significant, some of it's whimsical, and some of it's useless. But nothing, Jon, that I've ever done ever has resonated with people in the way that one big thing about Otis did. And so I want to know, in the beginning from you, is this. It's late February, and you share the story of Dipper. What happened afterwards in your life as it began to get consumed by the world? How did it land with you?
In terms of the response from people? Yeah. I mean, the immediate landing was, I was slightly sheepish and embarrassed. My family was there that night at the show, and I was sure that I was going to be able to deliver a stirring tribute to Dipper.
How'd that go?
In a stentorian and broadcaster voice, I was going to deliver it. I was going to be, Edward R. Murrow. Tonight, a dog.
Right.
Gone. I got about a sentence in, and then I just.
Well, when
the whole thing just dissolved.
When you reach for the Kleenex box, I mean, look, having lived it, I'm like, here we go, man, and I'm pulling for you, but I'm like, he's got no shot.
No, I know, and it's one of those things where you're just watching the guy on the wire, and you're just like, it's not even windy out, and there's no way this guy's getting halfway across.
Nope.
Like, it's just sad, and so puddled up. Tried to get through as best I could. I mean, one of the reasons why I will say this, and I don't want, Dipper was a Daily Show dog. He was, I was hosting the show when we adopted him. I brought him in every day. He was part of that Daily Show OG dog crew. And so,
how many were there, John?
Oh, well, the OG crew was probably 4. There was Kweli, who was named for Talib Kweli, by the way. And Talib Kweli got to meet Kweli when the two of them were together. And I remember Kweli, the dog, saying after he left, bars. That's what he said. Yeah. It was interesting. Bars. There was Kweli, there was Riot, and there was Parker.
Okay.
Riot is still with us. And I'm going to tell you something, and this is going to sound insane. So I'd been gone from the Daily, I'd been gone for 5 or 6 years, 9 years, I think. I come back, Dipper passes, maybe this might have been like the 4th show back. I deliver that puddle of nonsense that I delivered, and I just run out of the studio back up to my office so that I can sob in peace like a true man. And Riot, who was Dipper's best friend at the show, was waiting for me at the top of the stairs. Riot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just nuts.
Yeah, but see, it's not, because this is where this is where the dog people just nod knowingly and say, "Of course, Riot was there waiting for you," because
it was crazy,
right? And oh my God, like I laughed when you said the OG dog crew, and I'm thinking it's this Manhattan building, I presume, and there's just dogs running amok like a dog daycare, and I'm thinking there's shit and piss everywhere. The aristocrats, like, how did these dogs behave together?
Understand this: where we are in New York is all the way by the West Side Highway, right next to all of the carriage horses.
Oh, okay.
So there is shit and piss all over the place, but it's not from the dogs.
Oh, right, sure.
And it's, that neighborhood much different now than it was when we first encountered it, a couple of decades ago. But you don't feel like you're in show business when you're, part of that, area of New York City where Sully landed the plane.
Sure.
Like we're right on that edge there. It was the carriage horses and those stables. So if I looked out my office window, and we're only in a little 2-story building,
sure,
I'm eye to eye with a horse. They've got their heads poked out the windows, and we're just looking at each other.
Sure. So but Riot's waiting there, and I mean,
come on,
right? And then now that could probably land one of two ways. It could be the knockout punch, or it could be just sort of some sign from beyond, right? I mean, we ascribe meaning to things we want to mean things, I believe, in life many times. But that to me just feels too obvious.
Yeah. And also, I don't know. I mean, if there is a higher power, I don't know if with all the things going on in the world, if the higher power would be like, hey, I hear this. Is that guy sad?
Right. Send Riot.
Send in the mixed breed. Get him. Go.
He lost a 3-legged pit.
He lost a 3-legged. But Riot had a weird gait to him. Riot has like a problem with his gait.
Okay.
And Dipper's on 3 legs. So when the two of them played together, it was Island of Misfit Toys all the way. But lots of fun.
So that's the immediate moment. You deal with the emotions as best you can. But then the world has got a hold of it. And I know the night we did it, and John, we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs. And I do like a 6-minute obit to a dog. and I kid you not, it was. Listen, I'm not a throw my weight around kind of guy, and I don't ever say it's my show because it isn't. It's our show.
Otis stays in the show.
It's our show, and I said, look, this is going to be however long it is. Now I'll cop to this. I don't have a live studio audience, and B, we're able to tape it, and this is a little industry jargon, but we had like a little SOT break, which is I'm chucking a piece of meat to Otis, and my little guy is laughing. And the idea here is if I can get through the first part and we can just get to that, then that's good. Then we'll do the second part. Well, we get to the last part, and I've snot bubbles, tears streaming down my face.
No.
And I say when we get done, and again, we're taping it. I said to our director, I go, look, I can do it again. And he's like, you're not doing it again, and I'm not doing it again, because he was a dog guy. and he had done this brilliant, like, cared deeply about how it was produced and whatever. And then however many million views later, the world is reacting in this way. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to see if if you have received the same kind of sort of outpouring from people.
Yes, no question. By the way, was it difficult to resist the Otis One Shining Moment montage, seeing this was a basketball?
Yeah, and I just wanted, honestly, John, I knew he was sick, and I knew that it was going to end. And
was he an elder dog, or was he
not old enough, man? But they never are they?
Never are.
He was only 10, but he had lived through all these things and should have died. I mean, as I said, we called
resilient. Otis had some resilience.
We called him Otis the Bullet Dodgers, like the character in Snatch. Like, you couldn't kill him. And there were two good things about knowing he was sick. One was I got to sit with it and write, because that's cathartic to me. Try to do something with your emotion and figure, all right, well, we're going to do something on the show. And then the other was I thought, well, fuck this. He's not going to die from cancer. I'm going to kill him with cheeseburgers. We're going to have a cardiac event.
We still got time for arterial sclerosis.
Sure.
We can still do
just his heart seized up with cheese.
Give this dog diabetes.
Right. We fed him cheeseburgers in the last bit of time.
That's so nice.
But I don't know. It helped to be able to properly say goodbye, I guess, in a way. But then I was just stunned and remain stunned by just the way the world reacted. And I guess that's people. There's this nation of people you don't even know.
That's right.
That sit Shiva with you for your dog. They don't even know what sit Shiva means, but they're doing it. I found that to be beautiful.
Beautiful.
Right?
There was a ton of Rainbow Bridge.
All of that.
You know, I'm hoping that little Gary, or whatever their dog's name was going to meet him at the Rainbow Bridge. There were donations to the shelter that we had.
Animal Haven
in New York City, which is they're just a fantastic place filled with just tirelessly dedicated and wonderful people who go through, it's a nursery. I mean, these dogs come in and they are cared for 24/7 and taken out and given the best life that you can give a dog in that scenario, in the hopes that some people looking for some love in their lives will come in and find it in these dogs or cats. So it was an incredible place. So to see that happen, and then Animal Haven was kind enough to rename the room that you meet all the dogs in, Dipper's room.
Right on. Which
was a really lovely tribute, and one that at their benefit, I think a month or two ago, had me again on the floor. I guess people had not seen enough saline pour from my head, so they allowed that to happen. So that part was lovely, and it was really nice. I don't know if you know this, but if you go online on the Twitter and such, it is not generally a repository of human kindness. It is not generally the best of us. As Abe Lincoln would say, it is not necessarily our better angels. But that night, Dipper trended #1, and we put up some pictures of this is, the day that my family and I met cute with Dipper, and people just started uploading photographs of their heart dogs, their beloved dogs, the pets that are still with them, the pets that they are getting prepared to say goodbye to. So it was an incredible. Now, it was Twitter, so there was also every third or fourth comment was, "Why did you change your name, Jew?" So there was a lot of that. But that's Twitter. That happens.
I have a colleague that says Twitter's not the place to go for positive reinforcement. No. You said it isn't entirely a cesspool, just mostly, because and we experienced the same thing back in 22 with Otis. Just a nonstop flood of photographs and the Rainbow Bridge and that one little GIF or meme, whatever the hell it is, where there's a dog and then there's a new dog, and the new dog says to the old dog, "They still talk about you," and the dog says, "I know," and you do. And I'm floored by this, and it's not a warning, John, because that's ominous, but this is more just a heads up to you.
Yes.
It won't stop. All right, I'm several years down the road, and I'm telling you, all right, we had a fire in our home last year. We've been out of our home for a long period of time. We're getting back into it this week, which in itself has been an interesting deal because I knew I was going to talk to you, and I'm opening up these boxes, and I can't tell you, dozens of people painted murals of Otis the dog. Right?
Yeah, we got a ton of crafts, a ton of stuff.
And I try my best with each person to try to stop and send a note and say, I cannot express to you the depth of my appreciation that you would spend your time taking a dog you didn't know and a person you didn't know and devoting this level of care to it. And and it doesn't end. This guy shows up at the house this week and he says, "Hey man, you have me in tears." And I'm thinking, I've done a lot. What have I done? And he said,
"Was it WNBA stuff? Is that what it was?"
Right. Stop weaponizing Caitlin Clark.
Right.
No, it was that thing you did about your dog. It popped up on the internet, and I'm thinking it's been several years. A year after, John, this happened, somehow I think they put it on TikTok. And then I get this flood of people telling me how sorry they are.
Second life.
That he died. And I said to my wife, I said, Otis is Jesus the dog. He's come back from the dead to die again on a different social media platform. But again, it was this level of care and concern that I just found astounding. And it started almost immediately. We were supposed to go to Disney the week he died. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not ready for that level of.
But you didn't use it as a commercial. It's not like you died and you went, "What are you doing now, Scott?"
I'm going to Disney World.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't do that.
I did not. I said I can't.
Taunting.
I can't do that. So we went, but we had the time booked, and so we went to Florida. And I'm at this outdoor bar in the Keys, and there's he's like central casting. He's a handsome guy, scruffy hair, a beard, a hat, and I see him, and he raises a cup, and he nods, and he says, all he says to Otis, and he just blends into the crowd. And I'm stopped with, I'm thinking, wow, that was really sweet. And then a week later, I'm at a golf tournament, and it's Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this gal calls to me from the other side of the ropes, and I go over, and she says nothing at first, and then she's sort of standing there, and I'm not sure what we're going to do, and then she just grabs my arm, and she said, "I'm so sorry about Otis." And I said, it's okay. Yeah. And I'm schwitzing like an animal. And then I hug her. And now I'm hugging a stranger in a field in Tulsa.
Yeah.
And several years later, John, that still happens. And I think what I'm trying to not overstate this, but I really believe that what this speaks to is that all the bullshit and the way performative stuff in social media, I don't think that's who people are. I think dogs are the on-ramp to the real care and concern.
The unifying theme.
Well, I always said sports are our greatest connector, and then Otis died, and I said, nope, it's dogs. I truly believe that that's the one thing. Because even the people that will say horrible things to you on social media, probably in a moment,
they got a dog.
You're fucking right, they do. And then you know what they do? They go, hey, man, hang in there.
Right. I hate everything you stand for, but I'm really sorry about the dog.
But they mean that second part.
No question.
And I don't know, is there
And the people, by the way, who don't have, I think, that relationship with animals, and there are people that don't.
And that's okay.
Really are bewildered by it, I think, to some extent.
Well, people say it's just
there's that sense of like, why is this man in a puddle?
It's just a dog.
I think that's not necessarily a mainstream opinion.
No.
But there are those that are bewildered by it. And I'll tell you what else. So we have a lot of dogs, and I mean, I'll tell you about it later, but it's been a very rough 4 months for us animal wise. But when all that stuff started coming in for Dipper, you could just tell the other dogs were like, so what, so now we're going to have a ring of honor and I'm just going to sit here. Like, is that what we're doing? We're retiring collars and I'm nobody. Is that what this is?
Yeah, probably people that were there. Maybe was he the OG? Yeah. Like, was he the original? Like the patriarch?
He wasn't the patriarch. So my wife is a vet tech. She doesn't practice anymore, but she was a veterinary technician.
Okay.
And so we've always had. We've been together 30 years. We've always had animals, but there is also when you have the kids. The dogs and the kids and the unit that they form become sort of that. They're the central cast of the movie at that point. So we had Barkley, Smudge, Dipper, and then Scout. So Barkley and Smudge were kind of the two little OGs. They were very little. Dipper really was, we went down and it just fell in love. Like it was love. Barkley and Smudge, it was much more like saw a picture in the paper and like that dog needs help, and whatever that is.
Sure.
Dipper was an unexpected. We were not expecting to get a third dog. And then once we moved out to Jersey, we got Scout. So those four were really the squad, and they got along unbelievably. And once Dipper got a taste of country living, I couldn't take him back into the city. I remember taking him back to the show, and, I think a bus's hydraulics released, and he freaked out. And I was like, oh, wait a second. Dipper's right. This place is fucked.
Country dog. So they were really that team. We lost Barkles 5 years ago to a cancer. So then it was Dipper, Smudge, and Scout. Okay.
And that was kind of the crew until my wife and my daughter found a dog down. We were on vacation somewhere, and there was this island dog that was living on the street. And so now he lives in our house, Toby. We brought him back with us.
Okay.
It was one of those things where I show up to the airport and the two of them are weeping on a sidewalk holding a little, kind of puppy that's just sitting there like, I sleep on rocks. So,
not anymore.
So then it was Dipper, Scout, Smudge, and Toby. The ages were, Smudge was the oldest, Dipper next, Scout next, and then Toby. Unfortunately, and this has all been so Dipper passed away. A month and a half later, Smudge passed away.
I'm sorry.
I just got home from a doctor's appointment with Scout, who just had a lung lobectomy for a tumor. In it. So we've had, I can't even talk about it. It's just awful. We're very fortunate. We've got wonderful veterinary care around here, but it has been a truly heart-wrenching and brutal 4-month stretch that I think we're reeling.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. I didn't know.
No, I appreciate it. It's been ugly.
I didn't know that. Obviously, I only knew about Dipper, and but you said of him, you find that dog.
Yeah, Dipper was that dog. Dipper was he was my guy.
In a world of good boys, he was the best. And I'm not trying to mine or exploit emotion here. I truly am not. That's not my thing.
No.
But sincerely, because Otis was that for me. And were you a dog guy growing up? I never had a dog in my life.
Oh, you're kidding.
I know. And there's a lot. Parents got divorced. I'm bouncing around. It's like, and they were right. I would have been a shitty person to be in charge of a dog. And so I'm an old guy that gets my first dog. And we did every wrong thing you can do, right? He's going to whine at night. You can't let him in the bed. The hell I can't. And he's a Rhodesian Ridgeback.
Why have a dog if you're not?
Come here, buddy. And then he grows to be 100 pounds, and he views me as his guy, and he's trying to push my wife out of the bed because he thinks we're supposed to spoon. And we've moved into a different house, and my wife's like, "Hey, how about in the next house we can find another place for this animal to sleep?" Like that, fair enough, and we did. But when you say he was
so funny,
when you say he was that guy, was there a specific thing? Was there something your dog that Dipper did for you, with you, that was, and maybe it's hard to explain, I don't know, or maybe there's a thing, like he did this.
It's a symbiosis. I think, he was old enough that I think he was cognizant of what had happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
He'd had a really tough life. He'd been hit by a car out in like Red Hook, Brooklyn, and that's how he ended up losing one of his leg, and had just gone through the operation and had just learned how to walk again on 3 legs when we found him. And I think it was, you know what it was? It was the exhale. Like when we went down to Animal Haven to do this, we did like a little cupcake sale in front of Animal Haven.
Mm-hmm.
And there were you know, it's not like they only had one dog down there. They had other dogs, and they were bringing them out and walking them and all that. And Dipper came out, and he sat on my lap, and I just felt him go.
He was home. He was home.
He just exhaled like, oh, this will do. Yeah, this is, that porridge was too hot. That porridge was too cold, but yeah. Now, I assume that meant special bond. Here's my guess. Any lap would have done, like, I don't think he was like, oh yeah, this feels good. It was more like, get me the fuck out of this place now. But I took it as soul brother.
Yeah.
Is this really happening? And he would come to work with me every day. And if I got up, he got up. If I sat down, he sat down. I went to get coffee. He went to get coffee. So it was, we had a synchronicity that just was, it was a bond.
Mm-hmm.
And he would wait for me. I would go into the studio. He couldn't come in the studio. So he would wait at the door. And they used to always take pictures for me of Dipper standing up, his one paw up on the door, just trying to look like, what's this guy? What are we doing here? How long are you going to talk to an actor from a movie that nobody gives a shit about? Just come back here and let's go.
There's something about a three-legged dog. I was jotting this down, thinking about it. I didn't realize it until I thought about this conversation. My aunt had a sheepdog. Same deal. Got hit by a car. Three-legged dog. First time he went out to take a leak, bless his heart, he went to lean where there wasn't a leg.
Bonk.
Fell over. And my aunt's like, oh, she's crying and in tears. Next time out, he's good. Goes up, leans against the tree in the spot with no arm, pees the other way. Yeah. My colleague Neil Everett, who's the best, he had a three-legged dog named Smiley, and same deal. Smiley was a mutt, but the bond that Smiley had, I always just picture that in the dog community, they see a dog with three legs and go, guy's been through some shit, but he's all right. He's a good egg.
No question.
He's a good egg.
No question. Those guys, those are the grizzled guys at the dog bars, sitting at the end of the bar talking shit about cats. That's how it all runs.
Can we agree? You know what? I started to say cats suck. I don't want cat people.
No.
I don't want cat. No, I stopped myself.
We don't need to go there.
I stopped myself.
You don't need to degrade, to lift up, exalt.
Go get them.
I'll tell you this about a three-legged dog, though.
Go cats. Yes.
It's like having a fur body pillow.
Sure.
Like, without that other leg, you're right in there, man.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
The thing on Otis, if I could share, just
please,
the same kind of bond. I'd come home. I made it through my talk up to the point where I said, when I'd hear the click of his nails on the floor.
Yeah.
I host a late night show. I get home late at night.
Yeah.
He'd hear the door open. Click, click, click. Here he comes. And it was the same deal. I sat in the chair. He came and headbutted my knee. We did our bit. Yeah. And I'm telling you, the click, click, click part, not hearing that was just going to mess me up. And it certainly did. But the thing about this dog, now Ridgebacks allegedly are lion hunters. Now, where we lived in Connecticut, John, lions are thin on the ground. Not a lot of lion hunting.
Not a ton.
Not very little. Scarce. What Ridgebacks are definitively is protective. Not aggressive, protective. And we learned this when my wife was pregnant for the very first time. Mm-hmm. Otis, I'm working late at night. My wife's sitting in the dining room. Otis hears something in the backyard, doesn't like it. He goes and sits down upright, like a sentry between she and whatever's in the backyard. And he doesn't move until she gets to go upstairs, and then he's satisfied, we're good, and he leaves. That continues for the remainder of his life. The last photograph we have of Otis the dog is, here we go.
Here we go.
I'm good.
Let her go, baby.
I'm all right. It's in my son's room. And he comes in, his body's riddled with disease and cancer and death. And he walks in and he turns around and he lies down, facing the door. And my wife sends me that photograph. And she said, and I'm like, wow. I said, he never does that. And she says, what do you mean? And I explain, well, if I'm in the room, he comes over and sits with us. But when it was just my wife and my child, he came and put himself between them and whatever there might be on the other side. And
he never retired.
Nah,
he was still on the century.
That's how I took it.
Yeah.
And that last night, the click of the nails, and then couldn't get back up. And I know you talked to the dog, right? I know you talked to him. Because in the moment of Zen, you're talking to Dipper and just doing that "who's a good boy" bit, which we all do. But I talked to Otis like he was a human, and I'm telling you, the last night, and I said, "You don't have to fight anymore, pal." And his tail went crazy, and he started licking my face, and it was like he was good, and we were good, and
it's such a difficult dance,
right?
When they're suffering and that you have power of attorney, unfortunately.
You said
because of that.
You said it best, John. You said he was tired of Dipper. I was not. But that's where you have to override yourself, right? You have to let your brain trump your heart. And that when you reach that point, that's heavy as hell, but it's what must be done, I suppose, right?
I mean, for us, to be perfectly frank, like I always miss it. Like if I would have, I wish I'd caught it a day sooner. Okay. Unfortunately, Dipper, he didn't die at home, but he had a bad last night.
I'm sorry, man.
He collapsed, and we had to rush him in. If I had maybe a more rational, less emotional thinker, probably would have known better than I did. So I still feel guilty about that last night. That's the only regret I have is I didn't get to spare him those hours of what looked like agony.
We don't know each other from Adam, but I know a dog lover, and I would just suggest you give yourself the grace of knowing that it's only because you love the guy so much, And unfortunately, if this is a path you have to travel again here with others,
it's a nightmare.
I know,
it's constant.
Well, and you know what? I was going to ask, and I didn't know how many dogs there were. 4 months after I got little kids, and our family was not a complete family without some other guy, and so now we have Red, and Red is now a 100-pound ball of muscle, and he's a Ridgeback, and I appreciate there are people that got very mad at me because we didn't get Red from a shelter, and I appreciate and support wholeheartedly what those endeavors are. I just desperately wanted to have a Ridgeback again, simply because the bond I have with this breed was such that that's what it needed to be for me. And so we found a place.
It's a very personal thing.
Well, and we found a place, and someone suggested, "Oh, Otis, you should name the next one Redding." And I'm like, why would you do that to a dog and subject him to that comparison? And then I'll be damned, we found the dog in Reading, Pennsylvania, and I'm like, it's like,
oh my God,
it's like Riot at the top of the stairs, right? You just say, so this dog is in Reading, Pennsylvania. So the dog is red, as in Reading, and you do it all over again, right? You sign up for that. You sign up for what you know in the end is going to be this excruciating thing. But if that's, as I said in what I wrote, if that's the cost of the transaction, man, bring it on.
If 10 years of the greatest, most incredible gift is the price is heartbreak, how can you not take those 10 years? I would never have given any of it up. And look, for me, it's always that, that feeling of this was a one-off in my life. He'll be that guy. But then Toby will come up, Toby's got this super weird thing where when we all eat dinner, we sit around like a little nook. Toby none of the other dogs ever did it. He comes up on the nook and he just sits. Like, I guess we're all eating dinner. And he never gets any food, and he never really begs or anything. He just sits there. And, we're going to have, what do we have, a little family discussion? And he's very regal.
Is the Pavlovian sort of, is the drool happening? Because our dog Red sits adjacent to the table, but it's a full stream of drool.
He'll hit the drool. No, Toby hits the drool in the morning.
Okay.
Like he's definitely a food dog. He's what they call a pot cake. They're like these super mutts from the islands called pot cakes.
Okay.
I guess that's their word for mutt. I don't know. But they've been, they have to survive. So he's definitely a food hound. Like he definitely lived on the street for a while. But when it's dinner time, he's like, look, I'm going to put aside my scavenging instincts because we're going to have a more sophisticated evening. We're going to have conversation. We're going to sit. I'm going to give you a little chest, shoulders back. We're going to talk.
Every night at dinner, John.
Every night. It's the weirdest thing. And then he goes and he drinks out of, we have a flower pot, one of those planters that pours.
Uh-huh.
And then and we have a water bowl set up for him and the other dogs. But he just drinks out of the shower. We're like, did he only drink out of gutters? Is that what this is? Like, we can't figure it out. It's the best. They're the best.
And that's sort of the exit ramp here, I suppose, is just, I think that there's something to the love and the care and the grace and the concern that people demonstrate after this type of loss that I really, John, believe is indicative of more of who we are. I think I don't know how we take that and apply it to other places. God knows, and I wish you sanity between now and November and beyond, given the lane you traffic in.
Not going to be pleasant.
Probably not. But
you know what it is, though? You know what the dogs are in terms of that? Dogs are that Christmas Eve moment in every war movie where the German is 100 yards away and the American is, and they look at each other and it's a full moon and the stars are out. The snow begins to fall and they decide to get up and play a game of soccer in the snow amongst the Germans. And it's an armistice just for that. That's what dogs are. I've had guys, just say to me, I don't agree with anything you say, but I have a dog and that.
That's, and it's not it's not the same, but sports, you get that. And certainly our network,
right.
People have their criticisms of what we discuss and whatever, and how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a red hat or the biggest lib there is, or if you're, a Red Sox or a Yankee and you think we love them or that, people will lay down their arms over dogs. And so what I'm saying is, and I'm not pie in the sky, I'm not naive, I'm an adult, but there's that place.
Mm-hmm.
Dogs are that place, all of our place, where
no question,
where we're bonded. There's a unity in that, and I think that's fucking tremendous. And
tremendous.
We got to figure out how to take that and apply it to the rest of what we're doing. I'm not asking
Scott,
you
I think I have the answer.
All right, I'm ready.
We are tribal people. There's no question about that. And we need those divisions to have these animosity and arguments and things. But rather than having them be political, why don't the dog people just turn it on people that don't like dogs?
Bang.
Let's make that the division in this country.
Well, that would be
let's make the battle that we fight amongst each other, the people that like dogs and the people that don't.
Well, the people that don't would have to sign a treaty by dinner. They wouldn't make they wouldn't last a day, would they?
Well, they'd be led by the governor of South Dakota.
I mean, imagine.
And my guess is they would surrender by evening.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Because there's more of us than there are of them.
That's my guess.
Listen, as I said at the top, I realize you're a busy man. There's a million things going on. But I was hopeful that we could do this simply because I had a feeling that this was sort of where this landed with you. I hope that you, as these people will continue to come up to you in the months and weeks and years to come, to have this thing. It's a saying that I've heard most often expressed within the Jewish faith, and I find it beautiful. May their memory be a blessing.
Memory be a blessing. Sure.
And let me tell you something. Yeah. Every time that somebody brings up Otis to me, I smile. And you know what? Yeah. You know what his memory is? It's a blessing. Every single time. Am I right? Every single time. And so Dipper's memory and true. And your crew, your squad, Good health and
Thank
blessings to them. And I sincerely, I appreciate your time, continued success, and all that you do.
No, my pleasure. I appreciate having the conversation with you, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Jon. I just wanted to close with this. The loss of a pet, Jon and I and our families have dealt with, and many of you have as well. If this is something that is happening right now, if you're going through this, it's excruciating. There's no way around that. I would just offer up this suggestion. What our family did was we enlisted the help of a company called Lapse of Love. Otis was terrified of the vet. He would tremble. Couldn't stop him from shaking. He would have to sit in my lap when we went to the vet. The last thing I was going to do in the last moments of his life is subject him to that trauma. And this company, Lapse of Love, they come to your home, and the experience is still excruciating. It's brutal. We understand that. But they help make it less so. And so I would just suggest their services if that's something that you are having to consider now or in the future, which unfortunately is part of what loving pets is. But it was wonderful to hear some of the stories from Jon and to remember Otis, and to all of you that sent in those pictures on social media, the people that painted the murals of Otis. My thanks all these years later. And we're grateful for the love you showed the pets you didn't know, and we send ours to you as well. All the dog lovers, cat lovers too. That's not my thing, but dog people, stand up. Thanks to Jon Stewart. We'll see you again here on SVPod.